Denis.
Denis Villeneuve.
How to pronounce the lead actors? Oh. Hi everyone, welcome to Second Opinion. So today I want to talk about a movie I recently watched and I absolutely loved it, and that is Dune. When I researched for this movie, I just typed in Dune, and one of the first questions that appear is, why is Dune so hyped? So let's talk about it. So Dune 2021, I'm just going to read a quick synopsis. Dune is a 2021 American epic science fiction film directed by
Denis Villeneuve.
and written by
Denis Villeneuve.
and a couple of other people. Now, it is the first of two planned movies, and it's an adaptation of the 1965 novel by Frank Herbert, primarily covering the first half of the book. Wow. Set in the far future, it follows Paul Atreides as his family. The House Atreides is thrust into war for a deadly and inhospitable desert planet named Arrakis. It stars pretty much, everyone that we're familiar with. That's Timothée, Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, of course. There's Dave and Zendaya. Interestingly, Zendaya, you don't hear her last name. Everywhere it's just Zendaya. Javier Bardem as well. So that's a lot of people. Jason Momoa, I don't know if I mentioned him. Definitely a star-studded movie. Here was my initial thoughts. When I watched the trailer, I didn't know anything about it. Again, I'm completely new to the whole Dune universe. And then I watched the trailer and I was blown away. I loved the camera work, the atmosphere that was built just in the trailers alone. And I was like, wow, this is something. This looks epic. It looks grand. I felt good about the movie. I mean, I started predicting to anyone who would listen that I think this is going to be a good movie. It's going to be great. It's going to be worth watching. At least I knew that I would definitely like it. And fingers crossed. Well, having watched it now and having watched it in IMAX, speaking of IMAX, guys, try to pick the last row or the second last row. And don't trust Book My Show when it comes to how they show where your seats are. Just go ahead and pick the very last row. Trust me, out of bad experience. What do I think about it? Well, let's start with the direction. When I watched this movie, it reminded me of the latest Blade Runner, and I didn't know that it was the same director. Okay, no wonder. I can see his fingerprint on everything, and it makes a lot of sense. So the direction, I absolutely loved it. The movie is worth watching just for the director's vision. I mean, every single shot is beautiful to watch. It's like artwork. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. It is so watchable. Even the most mundane things, the way the director is able to visualize it, the way he tells the story just purely through visuals, camera angles, subtle and obvious, is powerful. Let me talk about the performances. Now, of course, seeing these names, you would expect an amazing performance, and that's exactly what they deliver. Starting with Timothée, this is actually my first Timothée movie. I haven't seen him in a lead role. It's just I haven't followed him. I just recognized him here and there, and I felt like he's a more refined version of Tom Holland, perhaps. And man, having watched this movie, I want to see more of him. Anything with him in it, I will watch. Everyone's great. Rebecca Ferguson as his mother, Oscar Isaac. Man, what an effective dad. And that one line that he has to his son saying that even if you don't take up the leadership, don't worry, this is not spoilers, it's there in the trailer, that you would be, whatever I anyway wanted you to be or needed you to be, and that is my son. Got me in the feels. Great father-son dynamic there. Jason Momoa is fun to watch, of course. And Javier Bardem, I think after ages, I'm seeing him, and I think in a role that really suits him too. So in fact, when it comes to the audition of this movie, the cast just had to be really good looking. They needed to just probably look at the camera, brood, or give that intense look and then they're hired. Because more than the dialogues, all of them, they're so watchable. These are really seasoned actors. They didn't have to say much. They're able to act with their eyes, and they've got amazing on-screen presence. That did wonders to the story. Speaking of the story, I would like to sum it up similar to what Jeremy Johns, I think, mentioned in his review, that this is a space or intergalactic Game of Thrones. So I'll leave it at that. Once again, it's an old book. It's a 1965 book, and I heard that the director is staying pretty faithful to the book. I know that in the 1980s as well, they've come out with a movie, and overall the good would be the music. Hans Zimmer knocked it out of the park. No one can do justice to the music except Hans Zimmer for a movie like this. It really matched the scale. Speaking of the scale, the production, I mean, every single thing looked on point, looked expensive, looked exotic. Nothing seemed out of place. The world building was excellent. And like I said, the performances were 10 out of 10. I got what I wanted. But, of course, it's not a perfect movie. I would say the bad is, well, set your expectations right. Just like the synopsis says, it's just part one of a story. So expect a lot of setup. I think in some ways the bad is I felt a little robbed after nearly 3 hours. You don't really get to the meat of the story. There's just setup. And I think the setup was a little too long. They could have given some more to the audience. The other thing is, if you don't like dream sequences and flash forwards, this movie does that a lot. I'm not a fan of that. In bits and pieces, I can digest it, but I felt like a lot of this movie was flash forwards. It's foreshadowing, perhaps a little too heavy. And like I said, the entire thing is one big setup. However, at the end of it, it is worth it in the sense you do feel invested. You want to see where the story goes. You get the scale of the problem. You kind of get that there's something big that's coming. So I am expecting part 2 to be a heavy hitter, I hope. But having said that, I'm a little bit nervous because of the director. Now, even the latest Blade Runner, everything looked epic, everything looked perfect, but I felt like the climax, the resolution, quote unquote, big fight was missing. It was kind of a letdown, and I'm hoping that that doesn't happen for part 2 of Dune. The only drawback is, Game of Thrones, you watch one episode which leaves you at a cliffhanger, and you just can't wait to click on the next episode. You don't have to possibly wait now. Well, here the setup is there, and it looks like we'll probably have to wait a year. I don't know if the effect of it is going to wane out. It can be a hit or miss for people who don't want a setup. They just want to go in. If they're going to spend 3 hours, they want to see the beginning, middle, the resolution, and have a complete story in their mind. If that is you, you're going to be disappointed. So go in with the right expectations. But if you do, everything else in this movie is really, really worth it. My verdict for this movie would be definitely 4 out of 5. The only shock is, how did this movie go out of the theaters? In India, at least, within a week, if I'm not wrong, or maximum 2 weekends, and that's it. And that's really sad. That's really shocking. But this movie, I think I would not have enjoyed it as much if I did not watch it in IMAX. And if I were to watch it on a laptop or just my home TV, I don't know if it would have the same effect. But nevertheless, great movie. I would love to watch part 2 as soon as possible. Thanks guys for sticking around. I will certainly try to be a little bit more regular when it comes to my videos. But if you've stuck around till the end, I really appreciate you. Please like this video if you want to watch more. And if you've seen the movie already, Dune, what did you think about it? Were you blown away or were you disappointed? Let me know in the comments below.